Hello and welcome to Dollars and Cents, the Australia Institute podcast where we're talking about just what the hell is going on in the economy. I'm Elinor Johnston-Leake, the senior content producer here at the Australia Institute, and as always, I'm talking to our chief economist, Greg Jericho. Hello, Greg.
Hi, Elinor.
How are we going today?
Very good. Big week, Senate estimates, GDP, lots of things going. I'm running on empty, but we're going well.
Oh, well, thank you for being here, as you do every
week because it's my job.
Yes,
yeah.
yes. Thank you for that.
Yeah, apart from that, yes.
All right. Well, yeah, we've got a lot of things going on this week, but we've got some new GDP figures out this week.
Australia's economic growth rate has slowed at the beginning of the year.
The economy has grown by just 0.3% in the 3 months to March. Annual growth steady at 2.5%.
Our economy's got no shortage of challenges, but it's also got some very sturdy foundations, and you can see that in today's data.
When the economy is slowing, before Iran and before the budget, Australians are going backwards. And we need a government that is going to lead and build out the future economic prosperity and growth of this country.
GDP, of course, gross domestic product. I'm sure you could explain it better than I would, but essentially measuring everything that's going on in the economy every time that money changes hands, and it's what we use to measure economic growth. So, Greg, how much did our economy grow in the March quarter?
The March quarter, so that's January, February, March, the first 3 months of the year, it grew 0.3%.
0.3.
Yeah, 0.3%, which is not a lot, shall we say. But the annual growth, which is essentially just comparing what's the size of the economy in the March quarter of 2026 with the March quarter of 2025 was 2.5% bigger. And look, that's not too bad.
Okay.
The really interesting thing with these figures, I thought, though, was really when you dug into them, look at, okay, what increased the economy, what caused the economy to go backwards. And when you sort of looked at that, it really came across to me that geez, GDP, is it actually all that important? Is it relevant? Is it worthwhile? Because it felt like a lot of the growth, a lot of the big things that were happening were kind of divorced from people.
Yeah. Okay. Well, what were the big things driving growth?
Yeah, the big thing that drove growth was business investment, private sector investment, which is sometimes, well, usually it's a good thing because and governments and everyone, economists like private investment because generally if companies are investing, that means they're going to be employing people. That means more people are going to be getting paid wages. That means there's, everything's
growth,
doing well.
As they say.
Jobs and growth.
Yeah.
But the big driver of investment this quarter was basically data centers. And
investment in building data centers in Australia.
Well, not so much building them.
Okay.
Because when we look at investment, there's two main categories. One is building and structures. So that's building things and that might be building a new factory or it might be building a new mine. So during the early 2000s, when we talk about the mining boom, it was a boom in building of mines. So if you go back and look at the figures back then, mining construction was huge. So that was great because that was employing a lot of people to build these mines.
That's not what's happening now.
What's happening now is, there's a bit of a tick up in building and construction of these data centers, but not a lot. The big boom is in the other category, which is machinery and equipment. And when we're talking data centers, we're basically talking GPUs, chips, and things that are basically not kind of tools that people use, the tools that actually are pointedly to not have people using them. So it really comes across that was massively driving growth. In fact, the increase in business investment, which was essentially all data centers, if you took away data center investment, actually investment went backwards. So it was all data centers. Yeah. It was the biggest increase in machinery and equipment in one quarter for 30 years.
Oh, wow.
Huge increase. Now, the problem with that is machinery and equipment investment generally doesn't drive a lot of jobs. Generally, that's more about improving productivity, which is a good thing. Think about if you're at any job, whether it be a factory or an office or something, if the company invests, or whoever you work for, invests in machinery and equipment, it means, okay, you're getting new tools, you're getting a better computer system, you're getting things that help you do your job better and faster. Generally doesn't mean they're employing more people to do it. But if that same company is investing in building a new factory or something, that generally gives a clue, they're expanding, they're getting bigger, and there's going to be more people getting employed. But when you look at data center investment, and it's mostly the building of data centers, and all the equipment is to not be used by humans, it kind of divorces this whole line of, if we increase investment, that'll lead to more jobs, because you're looking at this and going, actually, it's kind of the opposite.
Yeah, I mean, there's the added factor of, this investment in data centers is driven, I would assume, mostly by investment in AI. And, there's always the threat of AI taking away even more jobs as well.
It's completely inverse to what we normally think of when we're thinking of investment. It's not about increasing employment. It's actually kind of about reducing employment. And it's, and throw in the other aspect, which the Climate Council put out a report on Wednesday as well, pointing out that actually this boom in data centers that is expected in Australia is going to place a huge demand on the energy network, because data centers are extremely energy hungry, not just to power all the GPUs, but also to keep them cool. As if you got a laptop on your lap, gets really hot. If you got tens of thousands of these processors working, they need a lot of cooling. That requires a lot of electricity to do. And pointing out that, this is, in New South Wales and Victoria, it's increasing the share of electricity use for data centers is expected to go from 2 or 3% of the state's electricity use to sort of 6% within 5 years, sort of doubling.
Wow.
And now the government has in place things like, if you're building a data center, you've got to supply it with renewable energy and all this. And it's like,
but it's not 100% renewable
yeah,
energy.
and also it's, how well policed is all of this happening. And we know from certainly in America, these data centers are leading to increased use in, gas-fired power stations, because even if they're, it's not like we have so much resources that, let's say a data center comes along and goes, okay, we're building new data center. We're going to build a whole lot more renewable energy, whether it's through wind or solar or whatever. It's like, well, okay, but that sort of takes away some of the space for other renewable projects that would have serviced the rest. So it's kind of, it's just keeping us steady. It's not actually, it's renewable energy that's not actually lowering emissions. It's just that, we're bringing in some new energy demand into the system, and we're going to use renewables to cover it if all goes perfect. But that's not helping the rest of the, it's really this sort of net negative of, investment taking away jobs and ruining, our emissions reduction.
Yeah. So that's investment in these GDP figures. What about, there were some interesting points about profits and exports, weren't there?
Yeah, because GDP is made up of all these things. Some are growing, some are going backwards. So the things that are growing, they contribute to growth. The things that are going backwards detract from growth. So we're talking about the investment in data centers that actually was bigger than the overall growth, which means there must have been some things taken away. And the big thing that was taken away was exports.
Okay, yep.
For two reasons. One, what we call net exports, which is exports minus imports, for two reasons. Exports were down a bit. Why? Because we had cyclones, speaking about climate change and the environment. We had cyclones which prevented, mining exports and production as well. And also, we don't make all these processes and everything for data centers in Australia. Where do they come from? They come from overseas. So there was not only a big increase in investment, there's a big increase in imports and what they do when they are counting up the GDP, because you can't count them twice. If we counted imports and the investment, we'd be double counting. So what they do is they take away the imports and just count it as the investment.
Yeah.
And so that means in a sort of mathematical sense, imports take away. So when imports go up, especially more than exports, GDP, all other things equal, falls. And so we had this thing of, yes, the big boom in data centers was powering GDP, but the way it was getting done, kind of in a technical sense, was working against it a little bit. But also, one of the things with those cyclones and everything, profits were down. And there's a couple of ways you can calculate GDP. You can calculate all the things we produce and buy and sell, or you can calculate it on an income basis. And basic income is either profits, whether companies or small businesses, or wages.
Yep.
And also there's a bit of government stuff, taxes and things, but basic profits and wages. So when profits go up, GDP goes up. Yay. What happened this time was profits as a whole went down.
Okay.
So GDP went down. I'm sure everyone felt poorer because the main reason the profits went down were mining. In fact, that was the overall thing. If you took away mining, all other industries on the whole went up. But because mining is such a big section of our industry and because the cyclones and everything was so disruptive, their profits went down.
So that might be more of a temporary
and again, it just points to this whole thing. So we had two major factors influencing GDP growth in the March quarter. One was the big boom in data centers, which people are like, well, that didn't affect me. I didn't get a pay rise because of that. There wasn't a big jobs boom because of that was taking away a whole lot of workers. Like we saw during the mining boom back 20 years ago when there was a mining boom, there were a lot of construction workers going there. So that meant construction workers in capital cities were actually in more demand to build a home. And so their wages went up and it all sort of flowed through. There's no jobs boom for the data centers. So that's not doing anything. Powering GDP growth, great. Then on the other side that's going away, it's exports and imports and sort of profits. But again, it's all sort of mining, exports, it's data processing, imports. It's like, where the hell are the people in this? And yet that's where we're coming out and, we're seeing reports, it's, the growth was a bit below expectations, the economy's struggling. I'm like, we're arguing over things that are almost divorced from humans.
Yeah. So getting to the people of Australia, there were also figures in the data for household spending.
Yeah. Household spending is crucial in the economy because it makes everything that we spend, whether it be on food, clothing, rent, insurance, buying a new car, education, healthcare, electricity bills, all of that makes up about 50 to 55% of the entire economy. So half of Australia's GDP is household spending. So really crucial. It went up a little bit, not much, but nearly 45%, around 45% of the increase was us spending more on electricity.
Okay. Why was that?
Because that's when the rebates all sort of cancelled out and everything. And so it was purely because the government rebates had all sort of ended. That meant
people had to spend more on.
That meant we spent more on. So that counts to GDP, and so it makes it look like the economy's growing.
The economy's growing.
Yes, and this all goes back to that whole thing of does GDP really matter? Because if spent, and this has happened in the past where household spending's picked up, and then you look at it, it's spending on insurance, healthcare, and rent. So you're like, is that a good thing? And so it's a case with this. Most of the increase was due to the ending of those rebates. Overall spending wasn't great. And one of the other things we look at is we take into account population growth because when you're counting all GDP, all spending, if there are new people coming to Australia, that just increases. But it's like, okay, what about the average? What's happening? So we can divide it by population to get what we call per capita spending.
Okay.
And when you look at per capita spending, it actually went backwards, which gives us a sense of household spending was not real good, not really strong. So, and And the other important thing is, what was the Reserve Bank doing in the first 3 months of this year?
I seem to remember they increased interest rates twice.
Twice.
Yeah.
So they were increasing interest rates, which very much helped slow spending that was already slow. And then they decided to raise them again in May, which we'll find out in the June quarter figures. So it's again well done, Reserve Bank. You're raising interest rates at a time where household spending is really weak. And also what that increase in interest rates does is when the ABS, when it's calculating everything, it looks at actually household incomes to try and work out our living standards, whether our incomes, household incomes are increasing. But they treat mortgage repayments kind of like taxes because you can't avoid spending them. So it actually, when interest rates go up and mortgage repayments go up, that actually lowers household income.
Okay, yeah.
And they did go down, and mostly it was due to that increase in mortgage repayments. So well done, Reserve Bank. You helped keep household spending slow and weak, and you also hurt living standards at the same time. Well done.
Yeah, I really get the sense that, I'm sure GDP, along with many other economic measures, has use in economics, but when you just sort of, I guess when the media reports on without the nuance of diving into the details, it feels like it's just really misleading.
Yeah, well, I mean, this all goes back to the whole sort of creation of GDP, sort of devised around the time of the Great Depression, trying to just measure what's going on in the economy, was really useful after World War II, when basically economies were mostly manufacturing. And it worked really well there because if investment went up, that meant investment in manufacturing went up, jobs and growth.
Yep.
But once it starts getting divorced, and we've seen this in Australia over the last 20, 30 years, when, say, export growth is powering GDP growth, then most of those exports are in rocks rather than us making things, then it's like, how important is it? And look,
and when the investment is in data centers,
it gets even worse.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying we shouldn't think about GDP or GDP is completely irrelevant, but you really do need to look under the hood and see what's actually going on there. If you're just looking at the big numbers, you're missing out.
But the big numbers are easy to report on.
Yeah.
This is the pay rise that millions of Australian workers need and deserve. This is the sustainable real wage increase that the Minister and I sought when we made the submission on behalf of the government.
Businesses are already struggling with high inflation, high fuel costs and interest rate rises.
So it means that finally award wage workers in Australia, our lowest paid workers, are getting ahead again. And that's great news.
Well, also in the news this week, Greg, the Fair Work Commission has announced that from July, the minimum wage will be increasing by 5.97%, and the minimum award wage is going up 4.75%. Both of those increases are above inflation. This is going to affect millions of Australians. About 21% of all employees in Australia receive a minimum award rate. So, Greg, is this going to be a big help for people who are facing cost of living challenges right now, or does this not go far enough?
Yeah, look, I wouldn't say it was a huge victory for workers, and certainly a huge help, but it certainly is a necessary one. I think it's interesting. The Fair Work Commission, as you point out, rules on two things. First, the minimum wage, and then the award rates, basically the minimum you can get paid for any type of different job, and there's a whole lot of different award rates. Normally, they raise them both the same amount, but this time, which they also did just after the pandemic, they split them and raised the minimum wage by 6% and the award rates by 4.75%. The reason they did that is the minimum wage, not many people actually get that. Only about 100,000 people. And, when you think, we've got about 16 million people in the workforce, so 100,000, very tiny. Generally, people are only on the minimum wage for a very short period of time before they actually go on to an award rate.
Yeah.
But what the Fair Work Commission sort of ruled was that, okay, people on that minimum wage, they're really struggling with the cost of living, the increases in prices over the past year. Let's bump that up by 6%, which is well above 4.2% inflation. And they did that because they realized that people on that minimum wage, which is now going to be $26.44 an hour, bugger all, finally went above $1,000. I think it's $1,000 and $1,004 a week.
Yep.
They spend pretty much everything on necessities. And they also noted that necessities, the prices of necessities had increased faster than inflation. So they really wanted to protect those. But the big cohort of employers who get affected by these decisions are the ones on the award rates. They are the 21% of workers who are on these award rates. So the Fair Work Commission would have liked to have increased their pay by 6%, but they were worried that that might fuel inflation because it's a bit too much above it. So they went for 4.75%, which is a bit above inflation. So it gives people kind of a real wage increase, not a huge one. Certainly doesn't get them back even to where the value of the award wage was in, say, June 2020. Again, the Fair Work Commission suggests that they would have liked to get it back to that. That would have required an increase of about 5.7%. But and it almost seems like they were going to do that. But then when the Iran war hit and raised prices and caused the inflation bump, they were like, oh, shit, that means we'll have to raise it to 5.6. That's just a bridge too far. So 4.75%. Basically what the government was advocating for. Businesses wanted 3.5%, which is a real wage cut.
I saw a bunch of headlines after it, businesses warn of pressure on prices and jobs. Should we be worried about that?
No, they say that every single time.
Yep.
Every single time businesses, after the announcement by the Fair Work Commission, say, well, this is the end of times. Small business is going to go to the wall, everyone's stuff. The Australian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, ACCI, every year pretty much recommends to the Fair Work Commission an increase in the award rate of less than inflation. They're always advocating for real wages of the lowest paid workers in Australia to go backwards.
Because it could increase prices, or it would.
Look, I've done a few reports now. I think I've done 3 over the past 3 years that sort of helps feed into some of the research that the Fair Work Commission uses, looking at the correlation between increases in award rates and inflation over the next 12 months. Because you think, okay, if increases in the award rates cause inflation to go up, then surely we would see a correlation, and we don't.
One would think.
There is none at all. And, I sort of go back 30 years and I try 20 years, 25, 15. There's none. And that's because these are the lowest paid workers in Australia. Yes, they make up about 20, 21% of all workers, but the total wage bill is about 11% of all wages in Australia because it's below average.
Yeah.
So most workers don't go, oh, well, the people on the award wage got a 3.75% rate. I want 4%. That's generally not how we think. In fact, if you look at what actually does correlate with wage growth, it's what happened to inflation over the past year, because people are trying to catch up.
Yeah.
We're always like, oh, inflation went up 4%. I'd like a 4.2% wage, please, wage rise. So that's the impact. We don't look at the minimum wage and go, geez, those guys, how lucky are they?
They're flush with cash.
Yeah. No, there's not, employee groups always say, oh, this is used as the base for wage growth. No, it's not. There's whole different processes in place, and no one goes into a wage negotiation. Let's say you're a builder or you're an office worker or anything, and you're not going to go to your company and go, hey, the award increase was 3.75%, so that's our starting rate. They're going, what are you talking about? That's for a completely different job, everything. What you do is you go in there and say, well, inflation at the moment is 4.2%. How about we start there?
Yep.
You know, or we're forecasting the inflation over the next 3 years is going to go up 3.5% each year. How about we start there? You know, it's ludicrous, and it doesn't actually, you know, as you say, if you measure it, there is no evidence that it actually affects it. So all of this talk about, oh, this is going to set fire to inflation, this is going to make the Reserve Bank's job harder, just shut up.
Yep.
You know, let the lowest paid workers in Australia actually stay afloat.
Yeah.
You know?
I think that's maybe the least we can ask for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know? So not super great news, but good news at least that they listen more to unions than they did to the employee groups.
Yeah. Well, it's nice to be able to end on some good news then.
It is. My gosh.
Yeah.
That's weird. I feel wrong.
Don't get too used to it. Yeah.
Don't get too used to it. Well, next week, I know we're talking house prices again.
You know we are.
There's some house price data coming out next week.
All right.
Can Elinor afford a house? We will find out.
We'll find out next week.
But this episode of Dollars and Cents was recorded on the 4th of June, and some things may have changed. If you'd like to read all about actually what was going on in the GDP figures, have a check of my column on the Guardian Australian site. And also check out thepoint.com.au, where Matt Grudenoff, myself, other economists, other researchers, Amy Ramakis, we are just powering out the content. So much great content, so much great research. Don't you think, Elinor?
Yes.
Elinor was checking out their listers.
I was just thinking about how much I hate the word content, which is funny given my title. But
isn't that your job?
It is my job,
content?
but it's just, it feels so... Yeah.
Anyway.
Everything is content. Everything is content now.
But if you would love to support all that research, all that content, the powerful interests like gas industries, like the banks, absolutely fear, you can make a tax-deductible donation to the Australia Institute's end of financial year appeal before the 30th of June. You can give now via the link in the show notes. As always, our music is from Blue Dot Sessions. Everyone, have a great week, and we'll see you all again next week.
See ya.